Peace and blessings to all the YouTubers who are out there watching my video. Once again, this is your host, Lambert C. Davenport, at God is King Movement MVMT at gmail.com. Please leave an email or a message and say you would like to join the movement. I am definitely looking for more people who are basically tired of being tired and frustrated about their economical situation, their prosperity, worrying about their kids, worrying about the future, basically, and how you stand and how you would survive. So please leave me a message, and perhaps we could get together, sit down, and discuss some strategies to bring us all out of the impoverished mindset into the rich and prosperous mindset where we're supposed to be as children of the Most High, who is very prosperous. Okay, so without further delay, I would like to talk about a few things. How is it that when we hear the news and they talk about the wealth gap and how the middle class, so-called, who was once in the middle, is basically being squeezed out of the middle, and either some are falling into the subcategory of what you call rich, and the rest of them falling down to what you call poor category. Now, the most biggest phrase you hear all the time is that the rich are getting richer and the poor is getting poor. Now, if the rich are getting richer and the poor is getting poor, who's the people who are making the rich richer? Without a question and a doubt, it have to be the poor people. So the poor people are given more of themselves, and the rich people are just hoarded in these types of capitalist gains and things like that, resources. Your birth certificate, basically your life or soul, depending if you're from the church, so your tillage and all of that goes up depending on which religion you're in. And other things basically come into play when you think about the rich get richer and the poor is getting poor. So I was looking at a few things, and we're going to talk about them real quick. And one of them is actually from the Business Insider that talk about, this talks about 10 major differences between rich and poor people. Okay, it was written in December the 9th of 2015, so that's only about, you could say almost 2 years ago, just about, give or take. And what the editor version of the article stated by Daniel Alley became a self-made millionaire at the age of 24. We are no longer confident in those assertions and have removed them. I've been rich and I've been poor. I know both sides very well. Growing up poor, I knew that I wanted to be rich. I came a long way and studied the subject all of my life. Over time, I have discovered that if you're not living in prosperity, you're living in poverty. Wealth is a choice that we must all make. Bill Gates once said, "It's not your fault if you were born poor, but it's your fault if you die poor." There's no reason why you should live in poverty. Wealth is waiting for you. But you have to make up your mind if you want it in your life. For a long time, I struggled to believe that I could eventually become rich. It wasn't until I observed the differences in thoughts and actions between the haves and the have-nots. Here are 10 major differences between rich and poor people. And this is his analogy of rich and poor people. So we're going to give you the 10. 1, poor people are skeptical. This is very true. We are very skeptical when it's coming together. I've came up with many ideas and concepts at my job. All people have to do is say, hey, let's give it a try. let's talk to more people. You know, it's ironic how you can go to a job that your higher management does not even work with y'all, but yet y'all skeptical of each other. But you're not skeptical of the one who looks at you as just a number. And a small or big capital letters, meaning you're a part of the corporation, therefore you're lucky you just don't get sued, right? So poor people are skeptical. They always, I distinctly remember a former co-worker of mine saying, those mechanics are a ripoff. They always looking for weak people. They charge you when you're not looking. He thought that everyone unjustly wanted his money and that everyone is out there to get him. That's what happens with the ego. Now, a rich person or trusting, surprisingly a great deal of rich people leave their car and house doors open. Depending now. Conversely, in areas of poverty, you find that this behavior is highly unlikely to happen. Not true, because back in the days when people had more morals, they did leave their doors and stuff like that unlocked, until different aspects became more present in impoverished neighborhoods, because as the Bible said in Proverbs 31, if I'm not mistaken, it says, give strong liquor or intoxicant to those who are miserable, for they can forget about their misery. So in areas where there's a high level of poverty, there's a lot of alcoholism going on, a lot of drugs going on, a lot of excessive things that would try to divert the emotions and the feelings that people have who are impoverished. You know what I'm saying? And in a capitalist society, you are seeing the haves and the have-nots, and you're questioning your own integrity, why you are where you are, right? And why you can't be on the downside of Park Avenue instead of the upside of Park Avenue. If you've been to New York, the upside of Park Avenue goes all the way to the Bronx. And as it gets past 96th Street, you start to see this transition of poverty. Now, there are pockets now that are changing. People call it gentrification. I don't call it that. It's because those people who are white, unfortunately, they can't afford the rent that they once lived in that area, so they move amongst those that they can afford rent. So that's just plain on capitalism, but that's plain on just the consequences of people who have and people who have not, rather the color or not, you know. So it's like a bird, right? You have a dove and you have an eagle. They both, at the end of the day, they both fly. One will fly faster than the other, and one could take sharper turns than the other. But you know, the case in point is that they are flying. So that's the case in point with people when they move into areas where they no longer have the money, they have to downsize. So they have to go into areas where, you know, they can afford it. It's not like you're really pushing the poor out. And the poor have a mindset that's called skeptic. It's being skeptics. So that's skepticism already created. So that's a form of lost. We have to stop being skeptical all the time. So that's the thing about trusting each other. So rich people have the tendency to trust those they meet within reason. That's the key word, and give others the opportunity to be themselves. Why? Because a rich person is not worrying about his or her basically image, especially men. So men are not, you know, I'm rich. I'm rich, as they say, I'm rich, bitch. You know, so they're not worrying about their way of looking. Only the people who worry about their way of looking, and that have to do with trust and trust versus skepticism or skeptic is that a person who is impoverished, they go by external things to make them look better in the eyes of a rich person or in the eyes of other people. You know what I'm saying? So it could be plastic surgery. It can be a car that they really can't afford, so they put themselves in debt. It could be getting a house or getting a co-op that you really can't afford. You know, it can be getting a great education and getting that job and thinking because of that job, rather it be a salary or wage. There's a big difference. A salary, some people think are better than people who have wages. Some people who have wages make more than people who have salaries, and vice versa. But the salary people, it makes them appear they're the learned ones. They went to school, they have their degrees and so forth. And these people just took up certain skill sets and courses and things like that, and they're the labor force. So it's this tier of fighting, this so-called force of fighting. Another thing about poor people, we love to find fault. People who are poor are always looking for problems instead of solutions, and that is so true. We complain so much. They end up blaming the environment, circumstances, jobs, weather, government, and will make an extensive list of excuses as to why they cannot be successful. That's what happens with the ego when it goes down that slippery slope of different forms of emotions, from like resentment, anger, frustration, empathy, fear, and resentment are like buddies, you know, and it's pretty bad because people who are poor or impoverished or going down that slope, like middle class is going down, and only a very few selective got smart and then climbing up to the lower tier of a rich person, you know what I mean? Most of the people are poor. Like it says I have like 45.6% are barely making ends meet, and you're talking about 491 million people in New York City. So you're talking about almost half of those people in New York City are barely making ends meet. Now, why is that? Because of our emotions. We always looking for problems instead of solutions. We want to create the drama triangle. You know, that's where you have a villain, okay, you have a hero, and you have a victim. And impoverished people are the ones that feel like they are more of a victim. And what they do is that poor people make rich people the villain. And that the people in the middle class, what they try to do is be the hero. But now, since the middle class is squeezing out, the middle class is looking at the rich class and saying that the rich class is the villain. So now you're just talking about the villain versus the victim. So the hero is out of the equation now. You know, especially as technology it starts to evolve more, you're going to see more people who look at rich people and dislike them, or dislike people who just have a job. And you will see that people who have a job or fortunately lucky to have a job, so they are more willing to do things against their own nature to maintain that job, so they don't be in the poorhouse, you know, or worse, or out in the street. As Oprah says, most of us have 1 foot out the door and 1 foot in the door. Well, most of our bodies more out the door, because when you think about it, so many people do not have emergency money and crisis money. It's two different things. Like, emergency money is something you need to do right away, right? It's like if you're sick you have emergency money, okay? So, like, no, if you, pardon me, if you're sick right away and you can't see your primary care doctor, which that is crisis money, meaning you have insurance, you have a primary care doctor, that's a crisis type of situation. But when it's a emergency and you can't breathe and things like, you go to the emergency room or department of a hospital, right, to seek care because you need it immediately, right, instead of waiting for your doctor, making an appointment and so forth like that. So you have enough, of maybe prescriptions or whatever for that crisis, and you want your doctor to solve it. So that's the same thing as far as with money. You can have emergency money for something you need, like right now, like, oh, you just hurt yourself and you're out of job for a few days, and the bills come in. That's like emergency payments. It's not like a crisis yet. Now if you hurt yourself and you ain't get no money and so forth like that for a few months, you bring out your crisis money. After your emergency money has evaporated or is exasperated. So poor people always find faults, and then we complain. We complain so much, and even when we find solutions, you remember how it say we skeptical. So how can you find solutions, right? And you know that you're freaking poor and your money doesn't make more money. But here's the bad thing. Remember the phrase, poor people are getting poorer and rich people are getting richer. That means the poor people are giving the rich people more of their money. So if poor people don't have money, then how rich people are becoming rich? That's the key. So it is due to our mindset on us being poor and how we think of each other in our own environment. So a rich person will stick to their environment. It's like animals, like you'll see a leopard with leopards. You understand what I'm saying? You won't see the leopard chilling with a black panther, okay, or a cougar or something. Leopards will stick with leopards. You understand? So you will follow the kind that is more likened to you, and you will live in the neighborhood of that kind that is more likened to you. Compared to poor people, they are all over the place, or try to be all over the place, except for they can't get in certain gated communities because of the rise in rent of 75%. From 2000 to 2012, the rent in New York went up 75%. So you can see why the poverty level is people barely making money, because most of their money now is being allocated into them just having a roof over their head. So we're looking at, we're finding faults, so we say a word like gentrification, things like that. And that is not helping. Even in the spiritual sense, people go, oh, you'll get your riches in heaven. Well, Job was an example of us being wealthy and still believing in the Creator. And even when he was tested, he still believed in the Creator because he lost, but then he gained again. See, and that's all about the mindset that Job had. Job had a mindset where he would never forget the one who's the richest of them all, which is the Creator, and he kept that in him, and the Creator blessed him back with a tenfold. So we as people who are poor, we have to stop finding these problems and definitely look for solutions, but stop being skeptical of each other and come together. If poor people are making rich people richer, that means poor people should have the mindset to say, hey, you know what, if we come together, let's say for instance, if you had 300 people, right? And that's not a lot of people for 8,491,000,000 people that live in New York. But if you had 300 people and they gave, let's say, $1,000, something like that per if they can per month. So that's like $250 per month. But if they can't do that, let's say if they did, that's $300,000 per month of cash for 300 people. That 300 people takes them up as far as the scale pay. Now, here's the thing of the beauty of that. When technically what the banks do is that when you're a group and you have an income like that, they said, well, each person is $300,000 worth. So that means 300 times 300,000, which will be what? Let's look at what it will be. Let's look at what it will be if you did something like that. So you have 300 times 300,000 people, right? That will be, ladies and gentlemen, $90 million. Alright, so that will be $90 million. Will all 300 of these people's debt and everything will be paid off? Of course so, because the 300 people does not equivalent to $90 million of debt. They just won't do it. It's just not going to happen. Okay, and if it do, then something is wrong with these 300 people that you would pick. Their mindset keeps them, what? In poverty. Now, rich people find success. Rich people understand that everything happens for a reason. See, this is another thing. Rather than letting life happen to them, they take direct actions and make big things happen. Meaning they take ownership. You know, they take responsibility. See, and that's the difference between, and they put aside all the excuses and eradicate their blameless because they have to do what must be done. Okay, so what we do as people who are middle class, poor class, doesn't make a difference to me because I never believed in a middle class. So middle class is like lukewarm water, right? And in the scriptures it says lukewarm water is to be spit out, right? So that means that it's either hot or it's cold. You know, pick your choice. You either hot or you cold. And there's variables of cold and hot. You understand what I'm saying? So, rich people do not, you know, they put aside all the excuses, you know. Like us, we looking for the excuse, we looking for the problem. We say, oh, it's the weather, it's the government, it's our jobs, it's our circumstances, it's our environment, it's my education, it's this, it's that, my wife, my kids, whatever. We make excuses. But rich people, they eradicate that because they understand excuses turns into certain negative emotions which has a unhealthy effect on your brain and how your brain thinks. Remember, you have to change your mindset. So you have to create a more healthier brain by more positive thinking of yourself, your environment, your circumstances, your jobs, your weather, and your government. You know, and that eradicates the blaming. But as I say, 4,900,000 people, out of them, half of them are blaming all of these things. Your environment, government. Environment means neighborhood, circumstances, jobs, weather, government, rent, all this. So you got it. So poor people, rich people have an understanding everything happens for a reason, so they don't, get crazy with it, right? Um, oh, poor people make assumptions, and now you have skepticism and assumptions. So when it comes to knowing the truth, poor people often make assumptions. If they want to reach out to a celebrity, they might say, they probably don't have time to talk to me. Instead of checking the facts or asking questions, they never make a true attempt when it comes to getting what they want. So instead of checking the facts or asking questions, so this is what happens. People who are middle class or poor class, a lot of times they have what is basically clearly a low self-esteem, although they try to act like they don't have that because they have fear. So fear and with the ego will boost everything up. Like, no, you're not scared, because you could punch somebody out in your same environment, but you can't do that downtown, where the more richer people are, because, the circumstances are greater, and then you will look like basically a derelict, so you're not going to do that. So they probably don't have time to talk to me. See, and that's the thing. We have this negative concept that, oh, I can't talk to my boss, and when the boss thing, they go, oh, they won't listen to us, So that type of concept, they probably don't have time to talk to me. That type of concept leads an ego, and that's what makes people, quote unquote, want to get what is called collateral, certain types of unions, labor unions and things like that, because they're not, as poor people, they look for someone else to do the bidding for them because they feel powerless. You understand what I'm saying? So they create these so-called collective bargaining unions. That is all a trick and a trade, because rich people, they don't have unions like that. They do have unions, but they're more like investor clubs or groups or venture. Yeah, they're more like groups and things like that, where they taking their money collectively together and growing and prospering as one. Where rich people are like, poor people are like people, crabs in a barrel, they always putting people down. And the bad thing about it is that when you're poor and you think you're middle class and you feel that you have an education, your education is your so-called diversion status of you being actually poor. So you press your education upon a person who you feel is a little bit less educated than you are, and glamorify yourself as being better on the status as far as education. And you know that you and that poor person, although you're more educated than that poor person, y'all still live in the same environment. Y'all still live in the same neighborhood. And you'll still get fired, just like that uneducated person can get fired. So basically, there is no really glamour that you can bring out of that, because that's all ego-based, So that's for poor people. We love to make assumptions, and we're very skeptical and things like that. Rich people ask questions, and I've been to seminars. I've been around where I was fortunate enough to be around certain executives and things like that. And I can tell you, and when I played the United States Chess Federation, was sponsored by some rich people. And I can tell you that many rich people ask questions. They definitely do. Well, if they feel that the cause is worthy, they don't care about spending their money. If they think that it would benefit somebody else, like this person who was wealthy was sponsoring us, lived near the United Nations. He didn't have to do that, but he did, and the Royal Knights became a very successful chess club that started in Harlem, where we even played against these Russian teams. Very good chess club. So I give props out to my old chess teacher, Mr. Hall, and also to my mentor, Bruce Pamofini from the United States Chess Life, and also to the Marshall Chess Club, who have opened up their doors for me when I was younger. And to, I guess, Bobby Fischer, who I never seen, thank you, because I sat in your chair at the Marshall Chess Club where you played at. And I can tell you that we do make a lot of excuses and be very skeptical, and it's a shame how our emotions supersede our positive things in life. Because when you're poor, you can easily fall into that down and out thing, and you could just blame for the rest of your life or other people. I call that the Adam and Eve theorem, because Adam and Eve, when you read about them, all they did was blame somebody else for their own responsibility, and they didn't take ownership of it. They didn't, because they could have said it was I. It had nothing to do with her. I made that own decision myself. But they didn't, and they blamed each other. And that's a mindset. That's a poor mindset. And rich people, they definitely ask questions. What if? For instance, what if I wrote an email to the president, he or she answered? If you begin to ask questions, you will save yourself a lot of hassles. The power is in the hands of those who ask the right questions. They don't answer your questions your answers. Another thing. Okay, this is number 4. Poor people say they and them. Wow, that is so true. That is very true. Even some people, because they try to slide away from certain allegations that could cause lawsuits, so they use a they and them sometimes as well. In a grocery store, the woman at the register say, they never have enough cashiers. I don't know what's wrong with them. Obviously, this woman did not take any ownership and responsibilities over her job. She certainly did separate herself from the job that was paying her. We do that. 100%. And this is what my director from where I work at, he always talk about ownership. And I look at him and I think of myself, okay, if you're powerless, if you have no power, how can you have ownership? To have ownership, you must have power, right? So how do you attain power to have ownership? Because a slave cannot be an owner of his own ship, of his own vessel, of his own self. All right? So that person, and I'm not talking about empowerment, okay? I'm talking about straight power. It's a totally different thing. Empowerment is more about, your internal self, how you feel. It's like people who you see now, everybody's walking around with spandex, or they go into the gym. It's like being at Starbucks and everybody's at the on their laptop, and you ask them, so what do you do for a living? I'm a writer. I'm an author. Or something of that nature. People, you ask them, well, why are you in the gym clothes today? Well, they's like, I'm taking care of my health and things like. Well, many of these things, although they're very good, they are diversions into the real problem of what's going on. It's just like this woman says, they never have enough cashiers. I don't know what's wrong with them. Now, if she's talking to, in the grocery store, a woman at the register says, okay, if this woman who's working and she's saying that to a person, she might try to be de-escalating the situation, but at this one, it shows that she's saying, and she's the cashier as herself, she don't know why this job doesn't have enough cashiers, you know. So she's not taking responsibilities, nor she's having any suggestions on to create ownership, because because she's powerless, because she's a cashier. You understand what I'm saying? A cashier can't tell their boss what to do, because there's an ego issue right there. There's a huge ego issue right there. First of all, the boss going to say to you, you're lucky that I hired you. And if you don't like it, you know, you could go. You know, so a lot of people, they just suck up and eat up. That's what poor people do, because they feel powerless. You know, they don't have ownership. So I don't know why they use ownership and responsibilities. When you blame everybody, you're skeptical and you have assumptions and things like that, how you going to have responsibility? So you're not going to have it. Okay, what rich people say. At one of my favorite restaurants, the server said, we take great delight in cooking our steaks in real fire. His sense of pride and ownership stimulated me, which allowed me to give him an honorable tip. Surely you will be rich when you invest more into what you believe in. Okay, so they show two people, right? Okay, they showed two people. They showed one who's went to a grocery store, so you know that's probably in a impoverished neighborhood, because grocery stores, they kind of call them different things downtown sometimes. So you know that this is a neighborhood. These are two different scenarios, neighborhoods. And this, where the rich person went, he says one of my favorite restaurants. And since it's a favorite restaurant, it's a person who has money and things like that. So it's a very good restaurant. So the people's mindset there as workers probably is a little bit different because of who they're dealing with, you know. So there comes that educational part. Even though they themselves, as the workers, are poor, and the people who they are serving are rich. You know, so they use their education to divert their poverty ways, and they try to stimulate a more positive aspect of themselves, even though they know they're in a poor situation. So as far as their mindset of it being healthy, they're or trying to come up to what I call is they are conscious. They are conscious, but they incompetent. You know, they are very much aware, and this is why the guy said his sense of pride and ownership stimulated me, because that was the consciousness that he was talking about, which allowed me to give him an honorable tip. Surely you will be rich when you invest more into what you believe. So that's where the incompetent part comes into, because of the investment of the server. You know, yes, he was confident, he had pride, and ownership. It stimulated the person, gave a nice honorable tip, but at the end of the day, the server has incompetence. Although they had consciousness, they're conscious, and the fact of what they do, they take pride in it, they take a responsibility, or they take ownership of it, like, you know, this is me, you know what I mean? So it's a different story too, because guess what's missing there? Responsibility. They took responsibility out. Like the other woman said, obviously this woman did not take any ownership and responsibilities over her job. This one hits the responsibility and put pride in it. And pride is that thing that makes you feel like, yo, you know, I'm the shit. You know what I mean? That's pride. And that pride is fueled with ego. Yeah, nobody can tell me, you know, and I'm going to start putting myself away. And this is where you also get gaps of where people think they're better than other people. That's how racism is formed, because it's a superiorism of something. ISM is a superiorism of something, you know, so it could be educationism. So it's a superior form of education. I'm more educated than this person because they just only went to 6th grade. And you have some billionaires that didn't even finish college, you know, but they got honorary college degrees because of the money they gave. But they never finished college. And guess what? They are telling people who are more educated than them what to do. Now you go figure that out. Is that a person that is poor? Think about it. Think about it. Because that person that's like that, he hopes that he will become the leader of that corporation, but normally it goes to family or to another business partner in that group or investors group or club or corporate union and stuff like that I try to get people to join up with me. Number 5 is poor people want the cheapest way. That's why Lotto is so rich right now. I'm going to admit that. Lotto is very rich because it's not like poor people want the cheapest way. They want the fastest way to get fast money. Like their hands itch for money and their pockets burn for money, but when their hands touch it, it burns away, and when they put it in their pockets, it holds, it falls out, and the rich people just come in and just grab it up. You know, and so it goes, I was once shopping with a friend who only wanted to buy if they could find the cheapest clothing. They will rush to the clearance rack and pick up clothes that they didn't even want, but end up buying because of a deal. Unfortunately, they end up never wearing it since they only bought the price. Okay. Now, I can make a instance of this where basically is how did what was it? What was the was it MBO clothing or something? They say a educated consumer or a smart consumer. Okay, so you have in that store you have what they call bargain prices of nice things, right? Because you know you're talking about an educated or smart consumer, right? So they made a lot of money off of these so-called clothes that appear to be cheaper, but of decent quality because of the brand name. Okay, so in this case, this is what you basically call gluttony. And this is what happened to a lot of us as poor people. It cannot only be cheap things. Sometimes we buy and pick up clothes that didn't even want. Like we might buy a cell phone, right? Like an Apple. And you know Apple always come out with these new cell phones. Now, it's kind of like cheating yourself in a way because it's like, you know, it's a deal. So it's like, oh, it's got more of this technology and that and so forth like that, and you should buy it. So it's kind of like reverse of this right here. So it's a deal. But also with this, when it comes to buying cheaper clothes, this is why the thrift shops has become a billions of dollar industry around the world because of that prices. Now it's a deal, you know, it's used clothes and it's like only $5, you know, but if you could get 491 million people to give you $5, you know, how much is that? You know, let's look and see. 591,000 people, right? Times 5 will equal $2,455,000. So that $5 go a long way, right? So this is what these types of stores do. So they actually, they actually are vampires in a sense. You know, vampires of your lust, vampires of your greed and gluttony and things like that. So they make deals. One of them is like all you can eat restaurants, right? Those are great deals. I mean, and if you think about it, like McDonald's, Starbucks, any of these places always have these deals. And millions of people go to them every day. You know, it's like, even like when we buy a MetroCard, they have a deal, right? The deal is, if you use, let's say you buy a MetroCard just for the day, right? You better keep that MetroCard, because the deal is, if you keep it, you won't have to pay an extra buck, right? So you are what? You'll put more money into the MetroCard because it's a deal. So you'll put more money into the MetroCard even though you might walk more to places you need to go. You just have it in case of emergency. So it's deals all over the place. And we're the only ones that look for these so-called deals. And if you just take the D and you put an ST in front of that deal, it's a steal. So they just steal your money away from you. And to you, you think it's a steal in the hood way of what you call steal. Yo, it's a steal, it's a deal, you know. So, you know, that's what we do. And it's true. A lot of females is good for that too. Oh, I gotta buy that dress, because they don't want nobody else to buy that dress. Or females are used to doing this too. And I don't try to blow y'all out. Then y'all forgive me for this, but you know, y'all have told me secrets. You'll go into the store, you'll get the dress, you'll wear it somewhere, and return the dress the next day. That's a deal. But that's a steal. Rich people want the best way. Okay, so rich people will go the extra mile to find quality material, right? They buy once, and they last for a very long time. Okay, my mother used to tell me that always buy good shoes, right? Because your feet is vital to where you need to go. Okay, they don't limit themselves to price and often seek service while they shop. Rich people want organized service and will never settle with items that are worthless and unusable. Now think of that. Organized service. Okay, so here it is, they talking about a clearance rack, right? A clearance rack. How many people ever seen clearance racks? If you ever seen clearance racks, they are so disorganized. It's like women are even like, you know, no offense, but women are even worse. You know, they tear it up. They're like Tasmanian devils when they go shopping. It's like, woo, right? But you know, it's all good. It's all good, as they say. It's all Gucci. They don't love Gucci, but you know, that's once again, that's a quality. That's quote unquote a quality material. It's going to last long, so it costs more, right? But that's also to separate as well. You know, because they could do the same thing for these so-called deal prices. Also, it says it's worthless and unusable. So worthless meaning like at the end they got a deal. Unfortunately, they end up never wearing it since they bought out the price. It's since they only bought the price. So it was worthless why they bought these deals. Like if you're only going to wear it once, it was worthless, right? And if you only got it because it looked nice, and then when you got home, you're like, oh, I don't really like it, and you throw it in the closet, that's unusable, you know? So we do things like that, and that's how the story goes, as Janet Jackson says, right? Okay, number 6. We almost at the end, and then we're going to get to the meat and gravy. Okay, let me see where I'm at. Okay, very good, very good. Okay. Poor people think money is more important than time. Wow. Okay, I have something here, and I'm going to write it on the board, let's see where it says object. It's this Hebrew word. If y'all can see that, that's like, you could say iron. It's like saying iron, but you go iron, like iron. All right. So that's a Hebrew word, and this means I see vision go beyond time. A lot of things with time ends with this I, right? I, right? So you will see that. So I mean, there you go. So when we talk about poor people thinking money is more important than time, what we don't understand is time is vital. Time talks about present, past, and future, right? So time is significant. Time also, how did I talk about? Okay, like your horizon and stuff like that. So you gotta look at, okay, how let's say I'm 50 years old, right? Okay, my horizon for me to be, let's say, $8 million worth, right? I have to move faster. Some people might not go, I don't want to be $8 million, you know, things like that. You know, that's how a lot of people, oh, I don't want to be, I don't want to be rich and things like that. You know why? Because they want to stay in the blame game. Okay, it's a game. First of all, money is a game, so we all have to understand that. Because money, when we're going to find out, is intrinsical, worthless object. It means nothing because it's a flat currency. If that paper money we have is an intrinsical, worthless object, it means nothing because it's a flat currency. Flat in Latin means it shall become, it will become. That's all. And how it shall become? By the government that order it, and it will become by the decree by the Roman Catholic Corporation, aka the Pope. Okay, so getting back into poor people think money is more important than time. Millions of people all over the world are trading their precious time for money. Okay, you can always get $500 back, but you can't get 50 hours again, right? Nonetheless, the majority of people trade time for money and never realize their true potential because of it. So basically, this is a thing in the Quran. It talks about using your time in vanity. It's like the Bible says, "Thou shalt not cast thy pearls among swine." Okay, this is like, why are you wasting your time casting these pearls amongst these swines and all, and they don't understand the value of a pearl? So, in this sense, poor people think money is more important than time. See, and if you realize that money is an intrinsical, worthless object, the intrinsical means is vital, it's important, it's a natural part of something. It's vital, it's worthless. Its importance is worthless. It's a natural part of something. It is worthless. It's an object. It has no really meaning. Now, time has a very important meaning. Time is very important to you. You're talking about your present, your past that's already passed. Like I just talked and I just said past already before. It's past already. I cannot bring that back, right? Okay, so that second or so of what I said past already passed. You understand? So that's time, so it can't come back. Money, you could generate the same money all the time. But here's the difference. Time is more precious than money. Okay? And this is the problem where you go to skepticism, assumption, people wanting things faster. But it says up top, it says, the cheapest way, also they and them, they don't want ownership, responsibilities, assumptions, everything like that. So poor people want things, basically faster. So we play the lotto and things like that, and the lotto is definitely probably more to a billion to trillion, easy billions, to $1 trillion worth of empire within the time that they started. Think about it. And that is owned by a private corporation that gives license to the states or any country. So they give license out. So they get a percentage of the money that we give. They get percentage of that money, which is so funny. So it's like a bank, right? So like, if you think about this, if you have 8.491 million people in New York City alone, right? Just think about how many people actually hit the lotto or any of those games in a given day. It's not that much, and figure how many people are actually playing it. So if half of the people are 45%, basically 46%, barely making end meet, those are the people that are paying lotto the most. Because of that right there. That money is more important than their time. See, if they thought and took the time out to stop blaming the consumptions and things like that and come up with a strategic plan as a group of people and saying, listen, if the rich get richer because of us poor people, why we don't come together and create groups to make ourselves more wealthy? But why that can't be? Mindset, people. Not only a mindset, because there's a lot of people that have wonderful mindsets and they're nowhere. Like, there are many people who are coaches who have great ideas and mindsets. I'm talking about those people that, actually coach as inspiring, inspirational coaches and etc. like that, or write books about how to become more successful and things like that. And these people, they got a little more assets, but they still where we at. They just have fame, and with certain things come certain privileges that are given to maintain that division or maintain that thing of you're better than the other person, to boost that ego and stuff like that. So, money to a lot of people is more important, even though money is intrinsically worthless object because it's flat currency. But millions of people all over the world are trading their precious time for money. You can always get back $500, but you can't get 500 hours again, which is very true. Rich people know that time is more important than money. Why is that? Because they create the money. The money is intrinsically worthless object. It's a flat currency, and they created it. Like you can understand in 1945 and 1944, and at a hotel in Bretton Woods, they formed the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and they created the flat currency, which is the paper currency. And they did it in successions and steps, and they were so sleek with it, and then they start taking people's gold away and telling you if they found you with gold or red notes or blue certificates, anything like that, you would go to jail. Picture that. Okay, so that's what rich people did. Why? To seal the deal, and they just order it by the government, and government itself or people. But the word government is two words. This word is rule, right? And this word is mental. So these are groups of people, right, who rule our mental. And these are the people who rule us through religion. I would like to say spirituality, but I'm going to say religion. Okay? So these are the two people who rule us. Groups of people who created these so-called governmental things and things like that. Like you would see most of these people in the government, thing, they're related or in such and such like that. Like they say the Bushes, like 44 of the presidents are related to somebody, and that's not conspiracy, that's facts. And then we are ruled also by another families who are into the religion aspect, and then you will see that too as well, that a lot of family members have people who have gone from religion, like one be pastor or bishop, etc., 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 start his own churches and things like that. So these are two ways that these people so-called make this so-called intrinsical worthless object called money that we have now, this legal tender notes that we have that is for debts purposes, private and public only. So that alone would tell you that money is worthless. So what is more worth than money? Time, grouping, coming together, trusting each other, building a more positive relationship. These things are more important. This is why I am with the God is King movement project, because once you realize you have a focal point, okay, you have the spiritual locked down, boom, it's decreed. Everything's decreed by the so-called creator. But look, but here's the funny thing: the creator is not a boogeyman or a boogie girl or a spook or whatever. The creator is right next to us because we have something called breath, which means spirit in Latin. Okay, so the creator is right with us, being right there with us, and sometimes you hear like a real positive settle in the back of you. That's the creator speaking directly to you with it. So to visit the creator is not something you're looking out. You're looking out for the manifestation of the creator saying be, but to see the creator you gotta go with it. Give you a key right there. Okay, so now the majority of people trade time for money and never realize their true potential because of it. Rich people never trade time for money. Moreover, they seek fulfilling experiences that dramatically alter their lives. Their careers are more focused on doing what they love and helping others instead of merely clocking in for a meager paycheck. Do y'all understand that? So their whole ideas of careers that are more focused into who they are. They're taking ownership. Okay? They're taking responsibilities. They love that. That's a responsibility. When you love something, you're going to take ownership, responsibilities, and everything like that. And from that, because you something you love, you're going to automatically help people. And it's not just, they just don't do it for a merely paycheck. And you will hear a lot of people have said that, rich people have said that. They always like to say, give, they have a saying, give to Caesar what's Caesar and give to God what's God. So in this sense, the people, the rich person's given Caesar his worth, meaning giving the people their worth, right? And giving God's what's his, right? And then the rest is all gravy, it's mine. You understand what I'm saying? So the rich people, they don't, because they understand that money is not important, time is, and they also know that because they're a group, they are more powerful, and they generate money. Okay? Because money is a thought. Any old way, it's a thought, and then it's ordered by the government and decreed by the Pope. So it becomes a medium, an object that's a medium of spiritual archetypes, symbolisms inside of it, and when you hold this, you come captured by those symbolisms. It's like a spell. You hold it's like a Ouija board, but you hold it. You understand? Oh, mirror type of thing on the walls, these of them all. You know, the more money you get, the more pretty you think you are. You know, the more happy you are, right? But rich people don't think that way because they know that money is intrinsically worthless object, right? And I keep on saying that. Now, poor people, competent. When a poor person sees an opportunity, they find out how others are doing it and emulates them. Most often, they never consider another way of doing it. Instead, they settle in the belief that doing what others are doing is the best thing they can do for themselves. Monkey see, monkey do. I don't know why I just thought of that. And I know some people will probably, oh, what you mean by monkey see, monkey do? Well, that's exactly what it is. Poor people are incompetent with that, with their own ownership, with their own responsibility. So it's a monkey see, monkey do. Oh, I'm going to do this because, you know, that makes the other person happy, or, you know, that's the way it is, and you should follow the rules. And now, mind you, rules were created by these people. Once again, the government and the spiritual leaders. The government is the rich people. The spiritual leaders are the rich people in spiritual. The government are the rich people in material. So they both have a treaty and a bond and an agreement. Okay, so poor people, or as I say, most often they never consider another way of doing it. So basically, what it's saying that we don't look for solutions, and that was in the first one. Remember when I said that this is what this guy wrote about the 10 difference between poor and rich people. So because we don't look for solutions, and we already think it's the order, right? And it's the creed. So it is. There is no other way. But that's bullcrap. Because it's got to be. If it's that way, like, how did numbers become different numbers? If it's no other way. How do elements become different elements? If it's no other way. Right? Everything will be just hydrogen. So that means that everything is just illusion, because there's no other way. But it is. But the problem with poor people or middle class people is our mindset of thinking, well, you know, those things are laid down and there's no other way to come to this possibility. Boom. We're done. You're a slave. It's over. Game over. Go back to work. 9 to 5, 4 to 12, 8 hours, 16 hours, whatever you do. Go back to work. Play with that so-called, basically, sell your soul or sell your physical too, both of them, sell both of them for a measly, intrinsical, worthless object called money. Okay? They settle in the belief that doing what others are doing is the best thing they can do for themselves. See, so settle. It's done. It's over. Right? And it's true. I have asked people at my job, listen, if we know that technology is coming and we hear the term of unemployment technology and stuff like that, some of y'all have children and y'all not laying the foundation for your children to be all right. Something happens to you, you don't have resources where your children can pick up from where you came from. They had a Jewish saying, this was a grandfather who had a garden, and he was moving the rocks and everything. He was building trees, and these trees actually had fruit. So one of the learned people said, why is your grandfather wasting time in building trees, and he's not going to be there to see he won't bear the fruits of this tree. And that is an interesting subject. That means that we are planting for the generations after. Okay? A lot of people tell kids, as people who are poor or people who are middle class or whatever, right? Because they hear the rich people says that's the best thing they can do for themselves, right? They follow the leader, right? Follow the leader, right? So they don't understand. It's a game anyway. It's set up, right? to create a separation divisions to make you believe that these things will make you successful in life. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with going around the world and picking up wisdom and stuff like that. Right? Nothing at all. I will agree 100%, you know. Go get that wisdom and understanding and knowledge as much as you can. There's nothing wrong with that, right? However, you know, when you settle, when you start to settle, that's pretty bad. That's really bad. Here he goes, rich people create. Now, my rich neighbors was disgruntled. Can you believe that? A rich neighbor disgruntled. Okay, why? When they found that their Porsche did not come in a specific shade of green, which they deeply wanted. Because of this, they decided to custom build their green Porsche with unprecedented specifications. I never seen such a thing. So, what is the difference? One is creating, one is competent, right? One is like when a poor person sees an opportunity, they find out how others are doing it and emulates them. So you're like, this is really bad, because this part comes into the spirituality as well. And this is where we get in trouble. Because Jesus even says, I've come to the poor to bring them out of poverty. Okay? I go to the people to bring them out of prison. And this is not talking about poor. This is a poor mindset. The spirituality, mental, and to a lot of cases physical. So it's, let's say it's all three of them. And the same as well as this, as well as being in prison. It's come to free your mind, and the rest shall follow. Right? So we tend to emulate, right? Because of name dropping. Oh, Jesus, name drop. Boom. Oh, I gotta be like him. You can't be like Jesus. Sorry. I know that hurt your heart, didn't it? The best person that we can be is ourselves. True to ourselves. There's an old saying, thou shalt know thyself. Okay, God says that we all will be held accountable for our own actions. So why would you want to emulate anybody? Oh, because of who they are. You know you can't emulate the Creator. So be yourself, right? Understand what's going on. Create that. When like the guy said, oh, that's for the Porsche. They found out the Porsche was disgruntled. He didn't like the shade of it. So what did? They custom built their green Porsche. When you don't like something, what you do? You custom build what will unprecedentedly make you more happy. Without the ego. Without the ego. Because it's not an ego thing. It's not an I or me, you know, myself. You know, this is about us. And this is why I make these videos. And this is why I'm starting this movement. God is King only. And the path only is God's path. There's no other path. You could be a Buddha and still be on God is King movement in the path only. You could be Muslim. You could be Christian. You could be Jewish. You could be a Jehovah's Witness. All of those different types of so-called sects and divisions that we have in religion, and they all supposed to follow the same book. Even Muslims. Maybe Shiite, Sunni, Sufi, whatever, right? And you still have the same books but don't understand it. Where you get these names from, Shiite, Sunni? Political? Nah, you get these all from Satan. You get these all from the ego of you. As the Egyptians say, it's that set that sits behind here, that set, that ego. Suggestions, whispers. That's it. And we take it from there. You know, oh, we got to emulate. And you emulate these people, and guess what? Some people even say on the spiritual note, right? On the spiritual note, because you know, the spiritual cascades into the physical, right? Because spiritual you can't see. So it cascades into what we see now, our physical manifestation, this matter that we call, right? Since we all know about and heard about Isaac Newton, energy is something that cannot be destroyed but transformed. Or we not energy. Wake up, hello, holla. All right? So emulate, we can't do that. There's a thing called emulation or emulation of the Yesava Sulfur, right? That's understanding your spirits in the tree of life. That's understanding from Keter, which is God unity, going down with Binah and Chakma, wisdom and understanding. But those three is on the higher tier, right? And you go from Keter, the unity of God, you zip down right into Makuf, right? Which means kingdom, right? So it's your kingdom, okay? It's your kingdom. That's what they talk about, ownership, responsibility. This is your kingdom. Each and every one of us have a kingdom. So instead of being disgruntled, we have to become created. We have to say, you know what? My rent is high, your rent is high. We live in the same building. Let's create a sheet, right? And let's formulate a committee, a wealth generating committee. Because if the rich are getting richer off of our poor butts, that means we have a lot of money. We just don't know we have money. Because money is more important than time. Money, we don't know it's ordered. It's a mindset. It's ordered by ruling mental people, ruling your mental. So once we understand that it's a worthless object and we coming together and we creating this and we building this, we're going to be what? Wealthy again. Prosperity again. You know what I'm saying? Everything does have its time, but it's time to wake up. It's time to come together. And that's what God is King movement is all about. It's time to come together. It's time to not say there's 4,300 different religions. Yeah, there's 4,300 different ways you could talk to the Creator as one body, learning all of those sciences or schools of thoughts. Because like, if I wanted to learn how to operate my body at this optimal level as far as like what yoga does and how they teach it, I know there's people that's in the meta and things like that and say, oh, they bit it off of us. Come on, stop it, cut it out. That's an ego trip. No, they damn good in that, all right? And Buddhism and stuff like that, they ultimate, okay, with that stuff. And there are people. You know, we're all here, like it says in the Quran, whether you like it or not, you serve the Creator. Isn't that something? Whether you like it or not, you could be atheist, anything, you still serve the Creator. Why? Because you into existence, that the Creator existed. See, so people don't understand who's actually really in charge. That's why God is King. Did I make it clear for you? All right now, let's move on. Number 8 in his survey. Poor people complain, condemn, and criticize. The 3 C's. They sure do. Most poor people have learned how to enter and from their predecessors. And excuse me, Crips, for doing that, and that's not trying to taunt y'all or anything like that. You know, that's just seeds. That's all I'm doing. It's just a seed. Doesn't mean, that means complain, condemn, and criticize, okay? All right? You know, peace out, y'all soldiers. Remember that. We're going to need you. All right? Don't get bugged out with that. Most poor people have learned how to be poor from their predecessors. So, their family members have conditioned them to believe that everything is wrong instead of right. If you ever heard someone ask, what's wrong? You know what I mean. You know, and that's an interesting thing. Complain, condemn, criticize. We do that all the time. And when he asks you, what's wrong? What's going to happen? They're going to complain about something, they're going to condemn it, and they're going to criticize it. You know what I mean. That's what he's basically saying. So when you ask somebody, you know, what's wrong? They're going to tell you what's wrong. But it's not really what they're saying is wrong. They're just blaming an outcome because they are powerless. You understand? So they're reflecting off of that frustration and anger to something else instead of take ownership and responsibility for it. Because you're powerless, so you don't have ownership. You understand what I'm saying? So you pass the buck. As like people say, oh, here I go. Big one. Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, Ibrahim, all of them. Even animals or things like that they're sacrificed. Pass the buck. They pass in the buck. They pass in the buck. You know, they pass in the buck. People say, oh, Jesus died for our sins. And the Creator says you're going to have a day of judgment. There is some hypocrisy things missing there. You cannot have forgiven of the sins and still be judged for your actions at the day of judgment. It can't be both of them. And I know about quantum physics and stuff. Oh, it's in a parallel universe. It could be that and this at the same time. No. It can't be. You know, this one was sent, Jesus was sent by the Creator. So it can't be. You understand? It's just, that's how it is. And you have to accept that, y'all. Because why? Your predecessors, government and the spiritual leaders, they're the ones that put you in the doghouse. These are why we are poor, because of these two types of groups. Families, cliques, social, societies, all types of stuff. Cliques. Got so smart and say, we're going to make everybody worship us. You get them up top, I get them at low. As it is above, that's the decrees, that's the Pope and all that. As it is below, that's the orders, that's the government. Boom, they just did the pyramid. They did a damn pyramid. You know, what did they say? If this is spiritual, if this is religion, they always say, although you see tip of the iceberg, the thing underneath is just so much greater. And that is the world, the government. It's just so much greater. Right? So you go complain, condemn, and criticize that. Right? So, and your family, they teaches you that. It's just conditions. You know, as they say, conditions. So we all heard about Skinner and stuff like that. Conditions. Right? We know about that. The stimuli, conditions, versus unconditional stimuli, you know, blah, 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 U and C as versus C as equals, you know, boom, boom, boom. All this crazy stuff, right? Yada you, yada yo. But it's not crazy because we're conditioned. Off the bat, think about it. Think about it, how the bell rings in your house in the morning. We call that alarm bell. What do the alarm bell do? Ding! Right? It rings, right? What do you do? Condition, program. Bam. Wash up. Right? Eat food. Put on your clothes. and head to work, right? Ding! 12 to 2 or whatever, lunchtime, what you do? You eat food, talk crap, go back to work. Ding! Time to go home. 4, 5, 6 or whatever your time is, it doesn't matter. We all do the same thing. And that's following the script instead of making our own damn portions. You understand? Instead of creating, we following the script. And if they don't like the script that we were rewriting for them, they throw it away in the basket. That's called fired or laid off. And when you're bad, they suspend you. But when you create your own, you have ownership and responsibility of that. You feel better. You feel great. And guess what? Your kids won't have to go through that. So, think about that. Excuse me. If ever heard of someone. Now, rich people praises and enjoy their blessings. Right? Rich people know that they have many privileges. They don't take it for granted. Because of their appreciation of gifts, love, circumstances, they are able to generate more many times. What gets praises gets prosperous. So, their idea is to create this utopia of bliss. Oh, I'm a great Utarian. I'm a great, I give to the people, and etc. See, what they do is they're in the iceberg, and in this iceberg, it's like this. It goes up and down. So in the iceberg itself is the DNA, right, of this triangle here. Is the DNA, and it goes up and down. So that's what they do. So that's how they work on us as rich people. Alright? Also, they do a lot of reading. That's another thing, Poor people seek amateur advice. Okay. Now, we're going to have to clarify that because the fact of the matter is we all amateurs, regardless of how much knowledge we know, right? We all amateurs. And sometimes somebody new comes into the game and they say, hey, why don't you try that way? Remember? So see, that right there is a trick within itself. So the person who made this one is basically trying to put down a specific mindset, period, which is an impoverished mindset. Because mind you, he's a millionaire. He says, I know what it is to be poor, and now that I'm rich, right? So like, kiss my butt, basically. Some cases, you can't save everybody, but those who are willing come aboard. It says they often listen to the opinions of others and seek approval from acquaintance. That is so true, but even me, as much as I'm an amateur and variable things, right, it's all about learning. And there was never a person who thinks they're expert that's still not an amateur. Because knowledge is infinite. It's like if you ever read a religious book or read any book, you read it before you say, dang, as many times I've read this book, wow, I see something different. That's because we are always amateurs in this life. Just remember that. That's a key thing. That keeps you humble, They often listen to people approval for acquaintance. That is true, though. So basically what this trying to say is that Like me, when I try to go to my coworkers and my friends and things, and I tell them, dude, how much money we spend together, we should create something for all of us to be more happy and gratifying with. And they just won't do it because, you know, us poor people, aka middle class people, we don't trust each other. We just don't trust each other. That's from a slavery mentality. It's meant that way. The only person you trust is a person of authority, meaning rich people. You know, people who are quote unquote experts in things. Okay? You can't trust somebody who is walking the same path as you. You're like, what the hell? You right here and you trying to tell me something? Then if you're right, then why you don't have these possessions? See, that's ego. Put it in check before it wrecks you and wrecks everybody else. That's destruction. And you create destruction. So we all amateurs. They believe almost everything they hear without question authority. You see that? Now, I didn't even read that part. See, so they're talking about, when he said this, they believe almost everything they hear without questioning authority. He's not talking about authority of the higher upper launch, like the experts. He's talking about authority of an amateur, the person that's similar to you, that's trying to tell you, yo, let's come together and, you know, let's build. He's talking about question that authority. You know, question that want to be unity, question that want to be trust, question that want to build a better community for our kids and for ourselves, for our future. He asks them to question that. They accept opinions as facts, you know, and prohibit themselves from doing research once satisfied with the answer. And that is true. Like, if I'm saying something, I want you to search it. Because why? It's going to make me become better. You know, it's like you're challenging my views and visions, so I could become better in my visions and views, so you can understand it more clearly. There's nothing wrong with that. That's when you become quote unquote more expert. You don't become an expert. You just have more qualification, meaning you have more responsibility. You know, rich people seek expert advice. Those who are rich have learned to think for themselves. You see that? Look at that. If they cannot figure out something, they seek expert advice. See, so they don't go basically just say, why go to your friend? He don't know a damn he don't know nothing. He don't know a damn can from can worms. So why go to that person when you should seek a person who is qualified more, or who is in the like mind of where you want to go? Put it like that. Alright. So usually they pay for advice and are given a wide variety of options. They learn that experts only make suggestions, which means that they aren't particularly confined to a specific action. So even in the amateur, they just making suggestions, but guess what? You're getting it for free. And this is what a lot of corporations do now when they talk about make it better programs and things like that. You're giving the institution free advice. But when they want it, when they figure because you're a worker, your advice is not worth value. So you don't get paid. Thank you, and I take that. And I credit it to myself. Like Hidden Figures. Okay? How we didn't know about these women, right? We didn't know about them. So NASA was taking their credit. And to this very day, they're not getting it back. It's like the natives who had to fight for Venus' butt. You know, the woman with the big butt, the African lady, Venus? Right? I think her name is Sarah, something like that. That's power. That's power. Okay? the last but not least of them all, and let me see where we are at this point because I gotta get into that section. Oh, okay, great. Okay, poor people have big television sets. Oh, wow. Poor people take a lot of time to drift off to sporadic images of which they often have little to no control over, meaning we are great dreamers and shit like that. Okay, they use their free time to avoid the art of thinking, which is most challenging task, and zone out to what many have conformed to believe is entertainment. Wow. That's like people who smoke weed to get better understanding. They use that to like zone out. Alright, rich people have bigger libraries. Wealthy people are educated and read a lot of books. They use their knowledge in a way that benefits them. It's called manipulation. But, okay, benefits them is manipulation. Instead of drifting off in random activities, they seek to get within their minds to understand themselves. This is true with them. Others and the world in which they live. See, others in the world in which they live. In fact, as your personal library increases over the years, so will your home. I can attest to this. That is so true. To get the true perspective on how to become rich, you must study the rich people. After all, you become what you study. If you're currently surrounded by people who aren't yet rich, just do the opposite of what they do. Soon enough, you'll be able to reach your financial dreams. People, it's not a dream, it becomes a reality. Okay, so what do we have going on? Right? So now, let's get to my final thing. So, as you can see, I wrote something up here, and I'm going to do this real quick. What is money today? Money is a flat currency according to, you can look this up, Financial Times, y'all. FinancialTimes.com, the lexicon. And it's going to tell you what money is. Okay, money is a paper, tendered note. It's actually intrinsical worthless object. Okay, and the word flat means it shall become, it will become. It shall become, meaning it's an order. It shall become by the government. It will become is decreed by the Pope. Okay, and intrinsically means vital, important, natural part of something. So this is a vital, worthless object. It's vital because we use it for debt purposes only. It's not something to make us wealthy. It's not something to make our family more comfortable. Okay, and it's an important, worthless object. It is important in our life because we buy food from it. And I know this guy. His name is Doherty. He's British accent, and he talked about how fake our food is in America. So that natural part of something is worthless. Okay. It's the money is created by the government. Govern means rule, and mental means mental. So the people, the secret group, give us orders, and orders are laws. So they make these laws or statutes or whatever you want to call it, fake boom, holla, boom, bam, all of that alakazam shit, spell words and stuff like that. Get all into your head and boom, it is what it is, right? Decreed by the RCC, the Roman Catholic Church. I say the Roman Catholic Corporation, but aka Pope, alright. So if you look here, right here, okay, what make people become more poor and middle class become more poor? One is the wages. So one have to do with wages, right? Or salary. It's not enough for the rising of the rent and the lack of benefits. Remember, rich people got more privileges. they call benefits for rich people, and the lack of resources. Okay, so those three things puts us in a state of perpetuated in poverty. Okay, now, so the rent in a lot of places went up dramatically over 75%. So most people income is going towards rent now, and everything else is shooting up right underneath their feet. So that means that something's going to have to collapse, correct? Something is going to collapse. Okay, so here's my plan. What is money? Here's my plan, everybody. So y'all can see this. Here's my plan. Okay, what is Lambert's seed plan? What is God is King movement plan? Right? So what is our plan? Gmail. What is the plan? How to get our spiritual, mental, and physical poverty. I don't care if you're middle class or not. This includes poor and middle class. Right? Because notice something about class that comes with education and all that stuff. So how do you come out of this? Spiritual, mental, and physical. Right? What is the plan? Okay, here's the Jewish. Number one, top dog of them all, is spiritual, right? All right, mind you, there's 4,300 beliefs in the world. Okay, there's over 330 million different names of gods and goddess, right? Okay, so let's get that out the hand, right? All right, I know my thing says 3.2, but make that 3,200 different religions, okay? Okay, what does minds do? Well, spirituality, we could all say that God is king. Right? Boom. And that's a movement. Right? And what do a movement create? Force. The movement is created by the force. Right? Right? There's a movement created by force. What force? God's force, right? God's creating the movement within us, right? Since we are created in the image and likeness, right? How can we go wrong? Right? How can we go wrong if we created in the image and likeness of God? This is number one. This right here is going to help us. Why? That's the focal point. That's the focus or foci point. Right? This is right here. This is the nucleus. Okay? Alright. So that's the spiritual part. Number two is the mental part. Okay, now everything goes downwards, right? And it goes back upwards, right? What is mental? Mental is our mindset. Okay, mental is the mindset, the way that we think, our thoughts, our intentions, aka neox, what we really intended, our actions. No, but the actions will fall into the physical. So I'm not gonna. It's a tweeter. Okay. So our mental falls into the actions, okay? So you have the actions. So we have spiritual, how we can make this plan work, how we could come out of these conditions and stuff. One is our spiritualness. We have to go back to the basics. And the basic is God is King. That's the basics. Who can complain about that? Tell me. Who can? What prophet that you hold up, or gods or goddesses, or ancestral spirit that you hold up, that goes against this? You know, I've talked to someone, and the last of them is the physical, right? I talked to someone, right, who's from Ghana, right? And there's this, I said, God is King. They go, Nami, Ye, Oni, and this comes from Ghana. Prior to any religious group, because this was a tribal, very old. This was very old. Nimi Yo Omi Ohim means God is King, right? This is very old. This is prior. This is from Ghana. Okay? This is prior, before any religion. Rather it be Islam, Judaism, which is interesting, in Christianity. Yeah? The so-called big three. Right? So-called big three. Then you can put Hindu in there. And you can put Buddhism in there. So you can have five if you want to. Alright? So, when I found that out, I said, you know what? God is King. It's definitely the rule. So, one is the spirituality. So that's to make it focus. Right? The last of them all is number 3, is physical. Physical needs action. It needs to take thought, ideas, and put it into actions, and then manifest that action into reality. Boom. Right? And it's got to stop. And the mental, you got to stop. Stop blaming. Right? Stop blaming. Okay? No blaming. Okay? Stop blaming. Okay? And this calls for action. This calls for trust and things like that. That goes all into the physical and the mental and everything like that. So, without further delay, if you want to get in contact with me, because people, by this year, by that year alone, 4.5 million people will be jobless due to unemployment, technology. Dead up. So we could continue squabbling and fighting about, oh, you need to know matter and all of this stuff. That's great, that's grandy. But you know what? If That was the fact, and they would never have failed. And they have a saying, and the saying is this. You know, there's a 27 letter in the alphabet, in the English alphabet. I bet you never knew that. You know what it is? Ampersand. 27 letter in the alphabet. They just never put it up there. You think there's only 26. Now I could tell you another thing too. In Hebrew, you know 22 letters, but there's actually 5 missing. Which what? Equals 27, which equals 9. Y'all need to stop playing with me. This is Lambert C. Davenport calling off of God is King Movement at Gmail. Talk to me. Leave a comment too. Hey, stop playing around. Let's come together. Because if not, by year 2020, and I'm telling y'all, this is straight facts. This is facts, not fiction. Many of us are going to be in serious financial trouble. And now, I want y'all to know something before I leave. Remember this. This is intrinsical, right? Intrinsical, worthless object called money. Right? Or should I say paper? What they want to do? Make everything what? Paperless. So what is going to happen to the economy, y'all? What's going to happen? Crash. Crisis. Crash. Take that out and you got cash crisis. It's coming purposely, and they've been telling us to be prepared. So how many of y'all are prepared for anything that's going to happen? You got enough food, or you're in the cities. How can you survive the cities? If they create a war, somebody want to come over and take over. You can't survive, people. So the best thing to do is stop playing around and join the movement. God is King. MVMT at Gmail. This is your host, Lambert C. Davenport, saying shalom, peace, assalamu alaikum, and hotep. Take care.